warm-up on air bridge. Starting now. Let me get some stats up on while we wait for the players. Let's have a look here. So, the current world record here, out of the players, and as far as we know, there are players that could have practiced in secret, but to our current knowledge, does this sound a bit loud maybe? Turn this on a little bit down. I think this might be a little bit better. Yeah, to our current knowledge, the world record right now is by Papu, a 7:08. Kappa has a great time here as well. And that's about all we know. 7:08, 7:09 is going to be the winning time. All the players have public personal bests of around 7/10. So, let's see the first warm-up. Couple of players to watch out for here that we expect will do well today. We have, first of all, the player that shouldn't need any introduction, Carl Jr. for Team Solary. He is now the 4-time world champion, the 3-time Tmgl champion, and the 5-time Serrator Cup champion. This guy has to have a very strong neck to carry all these medals, and he's going for more. So, you know, Carl Jr., the greatest of all time at the moment, and still looking for more wins. We also have Pack, who is projected to be his closest contender. Pack has really good pace, really good consistency. Almost managed to beat Carl Jr. in the World Cup, but fell 2nd place there. So Pack is one to look out for as well. We then have Gwen, the young superstar Gwen here, only 18 years old from France. And he's been playing Trackmania since he was 4. With an interesting line here. Whether that is warm-up only or whether that is something he's going to go for, I don't know. But interesting stuff. Gwen also very good. Gwen did win the Tmgl Fall regular season, but did lose the playoffs to Carl Jr. We then have Kappa, who is a keyboard player and actually did win the regular season of Trackmania Grand League in 2018, which was played on these maps because they're remakes. So Kappa, back to his home turf, you could say, is probably feeling pretty confident about this. And then, of course, Papu, the current record holder on this map with a 7:08. 0.9 personal best, I think it is. But here we go! First map of Trackmania Grand League Fall 2021 season. Let's go and see how this all unfolds. After the first turns, we see most players getting through it, only Tween making about a 1 second mistake, but Papu goes straight into the house in the first 20 seconds. And that is going to cost him 2 seconds. Scrappy falls off the track on the shortcut jump, and already 3 big mistakes have been made here. These players are still probably shaking loose a little bit of the nerves. A lot of anticipation leading up to this match. Several weeks of practice on these very maps. And then you're just getting thrown right into it here. A small jump there from Offie, losing him a lot of speed. Will send him down, but Gwen, that line that we saw in the warm-up, it was not a bait. He is actually going for that. A jump through the checkpoint where the others reduce airtime. Very interesting there. We'll see how it pays off for him as the players are now doing the final drift into the second lap. It's Kappa in the lead, followed by Gwen, Worker, and Spam. And where do we have Pack? 11-second mistake from Pack here, which will basically put him out of the fight for now. Looks like there's been even further mistakes, and we see the field start to thin out around the 10th place by Bren right now. Everyone behind that has lost a lot of time already. And Carl Jr., the defending champion, not off to the best start either. 9th right now, 1.5 seconds behind, but still many laps to be driven here. So let's have a look at Gwen, because oh no! Gwen has to respawn in an uphill checkpoint just as we were about to see his line, and that is a costly mistake, to say the least. 2.5 seconds lost. But can he gain anything back with his jump line? He just sets it up more from the right and jumps, and it looks to be about even. Maybe just personal preference here for Gwen. But if anything's going to save him here, it has to be that, because he lost a lot of time now to the top players. Very positive surprise here to see Grenadier and Worker doing so well. This is their first Grand League season. Both Grenadier and Worker playing for the first time on the top stage. And right now, they're doing really well, both in the top 10. So, impressive performance thus far. Oh, this could be an awkward landing for Gennady. He barely saves it through the pillars. Close call there with the wall. But let's have a look up front. It's Aurel, Massa, and Kappa, who have all gotten off about 1 second faster than the rest. And Kappa there with a bit of optimization against the others. He goes wide for more speed, and he holds that lead right now, where he won 3 years ago in the beta season. Now we're back for real, and it's Kappa. Oh, he sets up from the right for the no airtime. Okay, interesting approach there. Kappa will actually just extend this lead here. Down to the other 2 players. Last drift here can be tricky. Goes wide with a lot of speed. Massa with an inside approach with less speed. But Aurel will actually claim second place just barely and just momentarily as Massa defends it. Carl Jr. now has maneuvered his way up to 4th place after being 9th earlier. Is just steadily making his way up there. If you're new into the scene, it's hard to realize just why Carl Jr. is that good, but the secret is consistency. He never really fails. You'll never really see Carl Jr. make a mistake. And if you look at the scoreboard now, he is way ahead of everyone else who did make a mistake. Mudda dropping down, Papu with that early mistake, Pack and Scrappy early mistakes. This is how he wins. And then, of course, raw speed when it matters. Might pick up the pace more in the last laps. Still just staying within distance here. 1.3 seconds behind. Great uphill downhill combo to get him 0.3 closer now. So he's making his way slowly but surely. And somehow Gwen, after being upside down earlier, is still in 6th place. Quick respawn reaction to get back on the track. Doing really well for himself here. But we are seeing Kappa, as expected, do really well on this bridge, this map, and probably the next one as well, as those are his home turf maps from 3 years ago. Has an unfortunate landing there to get overtaken by 3 other players, just as we praised him, but he's still in the fight. Let's see if this line he does here pays off, because he goes very wide up on the platform to get more speed down again. And it looks to be about even with what the others are doing. But it is now Aurel in clear first, half a second. Kappa's on the chase though. He gained a 10th in that segment. Carl Jr.'s also found his way very close to the win now, only 0.7 behind. But finding 0.7 of a second against Aurel when he's driving like this is going to be very, very tricky. Last lap is coming up. Kappa is getting very close to Aurel. Great speed there. Neo slide through the finish to put him dead even. And this is anyone's race at this point. Carl Jr. too far. It's a 1 versus 1 up front for the 25 points. Kappa with the inside line. Aurel landing earlier for more speed. He's going to keep that all the way until the next drift. Oh my god, Kappa almost making contact with the wall. As we now see Field still following close, at least the first 5 positions, but Kappa has made a breakaway. 0.2 of a second ahead of Aurel into the last turns. 0.5 even, as he sets up too wide in the turn. He goes off the edge and Kappa will disappear down the scoreboard as the respawn is so far away for Kappa. 6 laps clean, and the last one he makes a mistake. Aurel now in first, or will Carl Jr. have something to say about that? Only a few turns left. Carl Jr. with better grip, more speed. Is it going to be Carl Jr. to take the first map here After seemingly being out of the fight, the last drift will decide it. Who gets the most speed here? Carl Jr. setting it up wide. Aurel going tight. Will Carl Jr. pay off for this? No. It's going to be Aurel to win the first map. Carl Jr. second. Worker barely getting third ahead of Offie. Massa in fourth. Grenadi sixth. Papu seventh. Kappa eighth. Nutter ninth. Binks 10th. We have Bren 11th. Spam 12th. Gwen in 13th. Tween 14th. Scrappy 15th. And Pack with another mistake down in 16th. But wow. Well done by Aurel to win that one. 7-11. A respectable winning time as well. Very close to what the players had in practice. Around the 7-10 mark. And yeah. Solid points on the board for Aurel, Carl, and Offie. Offie with the fastest lap getting 21. And Worker getting 20. Now then, the second map, let's have a quick look at the preview here. This is Euro Sky, also built in 2018, as we talked about. And this map has a lot of high-speed parts. You're going to see precision and beautiful racing lines executed by the players. This is a recipe almost that they perfected. Just weaving between the obstacles and these holes in the downhill at the end of the map. And also driving high speed in the NASCAR section in the beginning. So great map coming up here. I love watching this one. We're going to pay close attention to Papu, who has the fastest time here on paper by a long shot, a 7:08. Whereas the other players, as far as we know, they only have 7:12. So Papu has a monstrous personal best time here. And we'll see who can get the closest to it. Scrappy with a great start here in this NASCAR part. But then, now we're coming into the more difficult section. You can see how much they're pushing it just in the warm-up. Nothing to lose here, of course, but weaving between all of these obstacles. And then you have the reactor boost. Here you can either go wide, like Papu and Scrappy, or you can jump a little bit onto the first step there. Great line by Bren to get first for now. In the warm-up, of course. But yeah, players to look out for here also Pack and Scrappy. Bit shaky start to the step for them. Early mistakes basically just threw them off any winning chances on the first map. So we'll see how they do now. If they can bounce back. Also, same can be said for Tween, Gwen, and Spam in the bottom 5. Warm-up is over. Here we go. Several weeks of practice comes down to this. One 6-lap race. The next 7 minutes. How many points can you gather? How many players can you beat? Good luck to all. The start is pressed forward, and then we will see a sea of cars appear out of nowhere. And here we go then. Let's see who has the best racing lines in the opening. It's actually Papu in last. After that very first landing, but only 0.4 of a second lost. Which is not that much on this map. Will catch up to a few players with very sharp racing lines here. And we have the first mistake. I believe that was Kappa into the wall. And that is going to cost him 2.5 seconds already. So not the greatest start for him. And we see some mistakes here. Oh, cars are flying off the track. I think we lost Scrappy and someone else in the mix there. Bren with low speed up the hill. Will cost further time, but we see Binks, Pack, Offie, Grenadi, and Papu are the cleanest so far. It was Tween, Bren, and Scrappy that made a mistake there, and Carl Jr. as well. 1.5 seconds lost in the opening. Mutta with a bad downhill. Will get overtaken. Oh, Carl Jr. almost making contact with the pole. Good save by him there. And the field is already stretching out here in the first lap. Now, an interesting detail here about the player Grenadi is that he is the only player in the field that drives with a steering wheel. All the other players use either keyboard or controller, but Grenadi is driving this car with a steering wheel. Also placed with the internal camera, which looks like this. So Grenadi is a special case in the field here. Really gets the optimal racing experience and is doing it to great effect here. But you can imagine like parts where you're flying, for example, like this next jump here. If you look at how this looks in Cam 3, for me, this looks very hard to control. But he's used to this. He's been playing this way all the time since he started playing the game as a kid. And he's now one of the best players in the world with that setup. Then you have cases like Binks, who's also new in the league now. And he plays with his laptop keyboard. So you find a little bit of everything in Trackmania, but Binks makes contact with the pole and will get overtaken by a lot of players here for it. Perhaps the steering wheel is the superior input device. After all, who knows? Pack bouncing back in first right now. Great trend to see by him. He made that one blunder, but oh, Papu with a crash as well. The pre-favorite will drop down quite a lot. The Pack here on a tear now. After Papu's mistake, he's 1 second ahead of everyone else after just 2 laps are played. And we see, oh, another car in the wall here. This is such a difficult track to drive. That was Massa, who's known for driving a bit all or nothing. He goes all in, and then if he crashes, he tries again on the next map. But Massa has matured a little bit in his driving style recently. Feel like he's gotten more consistent. But it is actually Aurel now who won the first map. Back up into first. On the second map. Really great showing here for Aurel and Gaming Priv thus far. I think Pack here though is hungry for this first place. Only 1 point so far. Doubt he'll let him keep onto that for free. We'll try to make an attack here with an inside line. And the lead is shrinking. Aurel is getting caught up to a drift line here from Pack. Look at this. Gains the lead back there with a much cleaner line. Aurel with an early release though will actually fight for it. It's not going to give up the position yet. And they trade back and forth for this first place. Very, very close in the NASCAR section. Aurel pushing everything just a few pixels away, and Pack makes contact with the wall. Oh no, this is going to cost him a lot. The respawn, 3.5 seconds. Down into 6th place he goes, and Aurel now in clear first, ahead of Offie. And Papu is right back. Oh, Aurel with a wide line. It is now Papu in first place, so not the cleanest race thus far, but this just makes it all the more exciting. Anyone could win now. As we get into the final few laps, the deciding laps, Offie and Aurel crossing side by side, Papu 0.4 ahead of them. And then we have Bren, and then a huge gap down to the others. Massa with a complete collapse, 19 seconds behind. Worker as well, 13 seconds behind. And the others are really close for the middle positions. But let's see the fight for first here. All these players got off to a great start on the first map. Could repeat that result if they hold strong for 2 more laps. Aurel into the wall. Small speed loss, not the worst place to crash. Will be able to adapt and get back onto his line here. But that might give Bren an opportunity for third here. Bren only with 3 points. Could really need that boost here if he can beat Aurel. Oh, this is shaky. Can he save it? Good save from Bren to not fall off the track completely. But it is Papu, like we expected, the world record holder with a 7:08.99 here, who has jumped back up into first after a shaky start, after a crash with the wall. He's still just faster than the others. On pace for a 7:12 or so right now, up in first. But there's a huge fight around the middle here. Just after Brett, it starts to get very close with Grenadi, Pack, and then Gwen and Carl Jr. in the middle. All these positions will matter a lot for the last match later on, which is getting exciting, the new multiplier format. Gonna explain that when we get there, but let's follow the final lap here. Will there be any mistakes for the players to capitalize on, or will the positions remain as they are right now? Papu still with a 1 second lead off. He goes into the wall. Complete crash in the slalom part, and he's gonna drop far. That is Bren up into third. That is Pack up into fourth now. And guess what? Bren is on the tether to overtake RL in the final downhill. Could make a push for it here, Bren, for second place. He's only 0.2 behind. He could maybe snipe him in the downhill here if he decides to risk it. And guess what? It looks like he's going for it. But RL holds strong for now. Last trip looks clean. Papu will win. 25 points to him. RL will get second. Bren third. Pack in fourth. Granada gets fifth. Carl Jr. sixth. Spam up into seventh. Binks eighth. Mudda ninth. Gwen in 10th. Scrappy 11th. Offie with that mistake from 3rd to 12th. Oh, painful mistake there. Worker and Kappa 13th, 14th. Tween in 15th. And Massa here will come in last after a huge crash and probably a couple more. Unfortunate for him, but what a start for the French players here. Papu and RL both getting huge points on first map and second map. And they will still be first and second in the overall standings. Carl Jr. third, Grenadian fourth, the new recruit in the league. Up there, almost on the podium in his first step. Let's see if things will change up as we're going on to the third map here. That is Barrelistic, built by Bonanno. This map is completely different from all the other maps in the step. Just look at this. This is wall ride flips. This is magnet landings. This is gravity-defying racing going on. And the players that were good on the previous maps might not be the favorites on this one. So that's going to be exciting. But before that, we actually do have Clash Time. Clash Time is coming up. And if you haven't played Clash Time before, this is Twitch chat plays Trackmania. So we are now playing against all the other casts that are going on. And I hope that we can win. So, yeah, here's the commands. You type plus to accelerate, minus to brake, left to turn left, right to turn right, and RS to respawn. So you can see the track in the background here. This is what we're playing on. Good luck. I don't know if we have a car. Wait, do we have a car? Is this our car or are we just spectating? I'm not sure if we have a player. It could be that we're literally just watching. Are we controlling this? No. No, surely not. Are we controlling this? This might be us. I think this is us. Is Tween us? I'm not sure. Because we're independent. All the other orgs have a player and whatnot. We're independent here. Alright, let's cast it. What a close round it is. It is Pax chat versus Carl Jr.'s chat. The wall hugging strategy is coming through. This way you will get safely towards the end of the lap. But look at this. Carl Jr. with the inside line. Very nicely played by them. But he will have to eat a huge crash here before the checkpoint. And Offie's chat with an inside line will overtake first place. And now then up the hill. Can they avoid the wall hug? Looks good. So Offie's chat is hugging the wall here. Carl Jr.'s chat will do the same. Huge lead for BDS right now. Oh, but what a terrible line. Oh, huge crash. Huge mistake. And that is not really looking too good for BDS. That's going to be a full face plant. And it will actually be Kappa and McLaren Shadow that temporarily overtake first. We do not have a car. Guys, we're watching. I appreciate that like we're participating in spirit, but we're... I need to ask for a car next time, alright? I'm gonna get us a car. I will get you a car you can drive so you can play along with all the other chats. But for now, we're just watching. Looks like it's McLaren Shadow still in the lead. Only by 2. Wait, are these chats only press forward? Wait, no shot. I think all these chats are pressed forward and they're exactly even. Oh. What a strategy. So Kappa's chat is the only one that's... Yeah, look at this. Kappa's chat is the only sentient chat. If nothing happens here, then Binks' chat will win based on their name. But Kappa's chat is trying to beat the press forward line. This is humanity versus robots going on. Humanity versus robots. Can Kappa's chat win? Or will the press forward overlords defeat them? Looks good for now. Bad line there though. Oh no. Lost a huge amount of speed in the uphill. You can hear the car coming closer from the press forward line. That car is only going on autopilot. Kappa's chat needs a good turn here. And they might get it. Oh, hug the wall could be a good strategy. They have about a 0.2 lead right now. Don't turn too much though. Oh no, disaster. It's going to be the press forward line in the lead. And they will most likely win here. And Pax chat is in first. Pax chat won. Which doesn't really make sense name tag wise. Or does it? I'm not sure. Anyways, GG's to Pack. It's probably with the IDs, yeah. That's how it works. But that was clash time. Guys, I will get us a car. Or I'll ask for one. Maybe we get to play next time. It could be me and you. I could coach you to victory. But now we are going live onto Barrelistic, the map we talked about, with the wickedness, with the wall bounces, with the quarter pipe flips. This is one to watch out for. Alright. Players to keep a very close eye on here are Mutta, the current world record holder with a 6:44.22. Grenadi has a 6:44.25, so very close between those two. And then the others are all around 6:45, 6:46 personal bests on paper. So let's have a look and see. So you already saw the first plastic wall hit there to bounce back into the quarter pipe. Here you have a wall flip. You want to land as early as possible on the magnet. Then keep good speed into the wall ride. And now we're going up the magnet wall. Let's follow this from Spam's perspective. At a good start. But this map is driven mostly at full speed. And Mutta here is a full speed player. Actually, the best full speed player in the game. So this is a map where he will thrive. But he now has to make the most of it. The chance he gets here. Two lines that you can take here. One is to slow down and land early. Or you can go for the high speed line like Grenadi did. Then you have a wall flip. Oh, Mutta choosing to respawn. Another wall flip in the ending, and the finish line. And then you do it all again, 6 times here. Oh, Grenadi flying too far. Grenadi flying way too far. And that's probably not a good feeling if you're about to go into the match when you completely fail the wall bounce. Good luck to all the players, they will need it. This is an incredibly difficult map to drive consistently. But I think a lot could happen here. This is not a map where anything is decided before it begins. First wall hit. Let's see how the players do. Grenadi almost making contact with the wall, but great speed. As a result, all players make it. Now the wall flip. I think we'll start to see the first mistake. Someone went into the checkpoint. And was that Carl Jr.? No, it was not. Did someone crash? I think it was Binks. Yeah, Binks with a huge mistake. Gwen as well, dropping down. And already in the first 30 seconds, we've lost 2 players to big mistakes. Now the looping then into the high-speed section. I want to show you Grenadi's line here because this is very interesting. Grenadi sets up wide, gets a lot of speed. And then he intentionally lets the car tilt down to land late into the downhill. Where players like Mutta go for more speed and they are coming into the frame here. Different lines and they balanced out just about in the overall, so it's personal preference. But out of the first lap, we have lost 2 players to big mistakes. 14 players remain. On pace for the win here. But it is Spam and Mutta who've gotten off to the best starts. Spam in the lead right now. Papu here though with a great flip. Very low landing. And look at the speed this can net you. If you dare to risk it and jump that low. Can save a lot of time versus your opponents. Carl Jr. with a big mistake. 5 seconds behind for the 3-time Tmgl winner. 4-time world champion. Will not get a lot of points out of this map. Most likely. Depends on how many other players are going to crash. Let's take a look at Mutta versus Spam here. Let's see what they opt for. Spam is going for the booster? Wait, is there a third line here? Spam exits the frame and comes right back into the frame with a third line. So this is why some players practice in secret. This is something I did not even know of that exists, but Spam there has been using it to great effect. 4th place right now. Gurnati, Mutta, and Papu in top 3. Okay, interesting. We're gonna have to take a look at this. The brain cells have been working behind the scenes by the looks of it. Spam here up in 3rd place with the strategy. Of course, driving a clean lap throughout apart from that. And did Papu make a slight blunder? Looks like 6 players here within 1 second of each other. Pack still in the fight, just looming at the tail of this field. Waiting for anyone to make a mistake that he can benefit from. We're gonna have to see what Spam does. 3 lines for 1 jump? You gotta be kidding me. Spam goes wide, takes the booster, and then with this line, he now has more speed towards the checkpoint. And it does kind of balance out because he goes from 4th to 4th. But oh, loses a lot of speed here. This could be bad for Spam because once you lose speed, the ending of the lap will be hard to manage. And no, Spam with the standstill respawn because of that. 1 small clip can cost you so dearly. It all snowballs from there, and Spam will drop down the scoreboard 4th to 11th from that 1 mistake now. And with that, it is Papu, Mutta, and Worker in the top 3. Gurnati in 4th. That is how quickly it can flip here. And they're still only halfway in the race. There's still so much that can happen here. As we see Carl Jr. with a further mistake. Definitely not going to get a lot of points here. And who dropped down Papu with low speed? It is the 2 favorites, Gurnati and Mutta, top 2 for now. With Worker, a very positive surprise that is joining this battle. Let's see the lines here. Worker going for the Mutta line. Gurnati going wide for the speed. And let's see if he can get any closer to Mutta, who is so consistent at this stuff. I've seen him practice this on stream all week, and it's been just this clean, but out of the frame, from out of nowhere, comes Pack to put himself 0.4 behind only. With 2 laps to go. Pack had a great line to end the lap there. And he is now up in 2nd. So Pack, can he get closer to Mutta here? Where will you find the time against the full speed champion? They're only losing in every split by the looks of it. Mutta is just that good when it comes to full speed driving, and you can see it. It's just snowballing, snowballing, snowballing. 0.7 now. Here they're able to keep that distance. Very close fight for 2nd. See what Pack opts for here. He goes for the booster Pack. So the 3rd option that was available to him. Oh my god, how does he dare to push that? Any other player would have released the acceleration, but Pack goes full speed. Full scented, and look at this. He's going to gain so much for it. He'll keep the speed all the way into the last lap, and suddenly he's right next to Mutta. Touching the spoiler temporarily, 0.2 only, so Pack has a very strong ending to the lap. And he could maybe contest this win from Mutta, who's been leading all throughout, but here, Mutta gets a great line. Will once again snowball in the full speed section. More speed now that he can work with. 0.34 as they go up the magnet. What will the difference be? 0.33. Pack is driving great here. He's keeping up. He's in fact gaining Pack is reeling in the full speed champion on full speed. And with a 0.2 difference, all he needs is a great ending. And he could snipe this 25-pointer and the win. Goes for the booster for the last time. Mora goes for his line. The inside line on the ice will land earlier and will be able to have a tiny lead for now. But Mora going too low on the final quarter pipe flip. That is how quickly you can lose it all. And will it be Pack now to win it, or will Grenady have a chance to snipe him? No. Pack will get the 25 points, Grenady in second. Papu gets third, and Mora will have to roll into a 5th place here. Bit disappointing for him after leading the entire time. The players are just rolling in here too fast to count, but Arrel gets 6th, Brennan 7th, Kappa in 8th, Worker 9th, Spam 10th, Masa 11th, Carl gets 12th, Tween 13th, Scrappy 14th, Gwen in 15th, and Binks in 16th. And a 6:46 winning time there. Only 2 seconds behind the world record on such a difficult map. Really, really impressive. Arrel and Papu still in top 2 though, with 64 and 63 points respectively. Grenady in 3rd and Pack in 4th. Whew. We're going on to the last map of the first part of the match here. The first 4 maps. This is the 4th map. This is On the Edge, built by Popwet. And say goodbye to all the crazy flips and all the wall bounces and everything like that, because we're going back to raw pace, to precision, and to clean racing lines. This map, you can really just pick how close to the edges you want to go, how much you want to risk. And the world record that we're watching right now is by Masa. Masa's 2nd place in the world, actually, just behind Carl Jr. But this is a map that suits him really well. It suits Carl really well. Kappa has a good time here. I think Papu as well are some of the top players to look out for, as they really, really enjoy this type of track where you can risk and drive better racing lines than your opponents, and that's how you'll win. So here you can see the map just flows like butter almost through the turns, and then it ends with the obstacle section, the identity, being that you drive over these edges. So a small drift to the left here, and then you just full speed send it through the last 2 turns in a gap that you can barely fit your car through with the greatest precision. So they have to do that 3 times per lap. It's 6 laps, so 18 times past those holes where a tiny off angle will cost you. So a lot of players opt for a wide setup there to make sure they get through, but you can see here in the warm-up, we had 3 mistakes there. And this is going to be very decisive. Can you thread the needle? Can you get the car through that gap on the edge for 6 laps consecutively? You can see just how difficult it is by the players trying it here. So here we go. Arrel, Papu, Grenady, and Pack are the 4 players that have gotten off to the best steps so far. And a bit surprisingly, we see Gwen being one of the worst performers so far, despite being one of the pre-favorites to do really well in the tournament. So Gwen now has not gotten the start that he wants, but could make up for it here on the 4th map and the last map. Same goes for Scrappy and Tween, who only have points in the single digits thus far. Really need a great last map now to bounce back. In the match, Offie hitting the wall in the technical section, not getting the drift he was looking for, and that will cost him. Kappa with a no slide in that drift drops him down, sorry, behind all the other players in 16th place as we're getting towards the identity. The first of 6. Who will fall here? We have 13 players that have gotten here cleanly. How many will get through? Scrappy with a mistake on the first turn. We have Pack with a mistake on the second. And it looks like most others did make it. But Scrappy, Pack, and Mudda have to take the safe option at the end of the lap. So they will drop down in the standings. But it is Masa up in first on a comfort map here. This really, when the map pack came out, this map just looked like a Masa map. It is tech. You can drift. You can risk if you want to. You can go all in. And no one is able to keep up right now. But the thing you have to ask yourself with Massa is when will it go wrong? Because Massa is driving really well, usually, up until he isn't. Sometimes it goes wrong because he risks too much. And that is often his downfall. He's fast, just a little too fast sometimes. For now though, all good for Berlin International Gaming and Massa up in first. As we head towards the second identity, let's go on board with Carl Jr., who has 42 points so far. Drifting through the turns now. All good for the top 7. Gwen with a bit low speed. Having to go for the safe line there. Oh, and he clips, but he makes it regardless. Good save by Gwen to stay alive in the race. And let's take stock of the other positions. Pack, Renati, Spam, Offie. Pack, Renati, Mudda, Offie, sorry. All with one small touch, I think, is why they're in this time region. They're really, really close for these positions too. The players are just trying to stack up as many points as possible before the final map, where they will try to multiply Binks into the wall. Going from 3rd there down into 7th. Maybe even further. As Massa has built up a 1 second lead through raw pace against the others. He's on a great run right now. Really just leaving the others in the dust, but the question I'm just sitting asking myself is, will this last? Can Massa hold this for 25 points for 3 more laps? Can it hold all the other players behind and make it into the next lap? They go. And we have a field of about 10, 11 players, all really, really strong right now. And as we are done with the first 3-4 laps, I can tell you Massa is getting close to his world record pace. The world record on this map is a 6:59.2 by Carl Jr. or 0.3. And Massa is actually getting close to that. The laps he's driving right now could put him within reach of that. It would be absurd to drive world record in a live match, but the others just are not close right now. He's on an absolute tear, so exciting to follow if Massa can maybe challenge that. Gwen, Bren, Pack, and Carl following close. Great to see Bren up here. And Bren has actually gone a bit under the radar, but what a step so far by him. 39 points overall is really good in the first 3 maps, and now he's up in 2nd on the 4th map. Great step for Bren thus far. As we see Massa with the first mistake now. He could afford it because he was driving so fast, but there will be no world record in this round. But still, even with a mistake, he is in 1st. Just because of how well he drove earlier, so... Oh, and another mistake, he clipped that turn. And this he could not afford. This takes a hit on the scoreboard, on the ranking, down into 8th now, is it? 8th, 9th place there, in just 1 second of mistakes being made. So now he has to try to stabilize, has to try to stop the bleeding. And get back onto that pace, because he can still get a great scoreline if he gets his pace together in the last laps here. He's about to overtake Renati in this turn, and Offie might be next to follow. Over the grass section though, Renati holding strong. Very close battle up front for the lead. It is Bren, Gwen, and Pack all side by side through the drifts. Pack having to brake and release to save himself, and look at how slow it is. He just has to roll across the finish line into the last lap and then see what he can make of it. But now it is Gwen with only 7 points so far, up in 1st to try to make a change. He has had a very rough step so far, but these 25 points could be vital to get him back in before the multipliers. Carl Jr. close to follow though. This is a battle we saw all throughout the fall season last year and the winter season. Gwen versus Carl Jr., the up-and-coming superstar, versus the greatest of all time, Arel, the consistent player in this match, leading before this map, and looking to get more points out of the 4th map as well. Very exciting to see what will happen here. Massa has not made any more progress, so he will not get a good overall scoreline throughout this, but Arel dropping a couple of positions before the last identity. Let's see who will win here. Gwen entering it with about a 0.6 of a lead ahead of Carl Jr. Can he hold the last 2 turns? One more to go for Gwen, and he will win this map. Carl Jr. gets 2nd. Bren gets 3rd. Arel 4th. Massa in 5th. Binks gets overtaken down to 6th. Pack in 7th. Grenadi in 8th. Offie in 9th. Mata 10th. Tween gets 11th. Scrappy in 12th. Not the greatest up for them. Papu gets in 13th. And Spam, Worker, and Kappa will roll in here in the bottom 3 spots. So I'm curious now to see how the overall scoreline looks at the end of this and see what we'll take into the multiplier rounds. Arel with 83 points here. Grenadi 72 in his first ever Trackmania Grand League set. Papu with 65. Carl Jr. 64. And then Bren and Pack are close as well. Let's take a look at the last map here. Pole Party, built by Histo. This map will only be played 2 laps instead of 6 laps. And how it works is that the players have a chance to multiply their points. There are 16 players, 8 rounds will be played, and the winner of each round will multiply their points. Meaning there are 8 players here that will get nothing at all. They'll just keep their current points. But if you have 83 points like Arel going into this map, you have a chance to make some big bank, and we'll see how they are able to do it. In the warm-up, see who has the best chance of winning this. We saw Mime do a world record just before his match in the Challenger division earlier today. The world record now a 236.8. But a lot of these players are able to drive 237.1 on paper is what we've seen. A lot of these players have as their personal best. That goes for Carl Jr., that goes for Kappa, that goes for Gwen, for Binks, for Papu. It's going to be very, very close rounds. Because 2nd place is not enough here. You either have to win or you get nothing at all. So you just have to push it and try to be the 1 player out of 16 that wins the round. And pay attention to this upcoming section here. At the end of the lap, you have the identity, which is Pole Party. You're driving through just this series of poles. Just look how precise this is to thread your car in the gaps here. And you have to do that 2 times in each race. So we've seen mistakes there happen. There will be mistakes there that are going to happen. Yeah, it's going to be tight. Good luck, have fun to all the players. I'm going to try to explain this as best as I can. This round, the first round, the winner will get a 2 times score multiplier. And if you win here, you are then out of the match. You're done for the day. So some players might want to intentionally lose this round, like Pack. Pack just hit the retire button because he wants a higher multiplier. He doesn't want to win just with 2 times his point score. He wants 3 times or 4 times or 5 times later on. But if you go for that strategy, you run the risk of not getting anything at all. Papu with a DNF, Worker with a DNF. I think Gwen here might DNF shortly. But yeah, some players are definitely not going to want just 2 times multiplier. And you can see the Giga Chat spam is coming through. This is probably going to be a strategy in the next weeks to intentionally retire in the last map to go for a better score. We'll see what happens. Carl Jr. with 64 points is in the fight for first here, but it is Offie barely ahead of him. Offie really good in the 2-lap format. He showed that in the World Cup earlier this year when he was able to go all the way to the grand finals against Pack and Carl Jr. and Kappa and show up huge in that format where he wasn't a clear favorite. Carl Jr. with the greatest start here, 121.03 in the first lap. Very closely followed by Binks and Mota. Mota dropping down a little bit though. Offie with a wider line hits the penalty grass, will drop down as well. It is Binks and Carl Jr. side by side with Massa following in third for this first 2 times multiplier. Massa going incredibly close to the walls. really just pushing it all here like he knows best. This is his style. This is where he thrives. But he's not getting closer to Carl Jr. and Binks tries to go for an incredibly risky approach though, and he will just barely make up some ground. Only 600s behind now, but how much longer can he keep driving like this? Because he's only millimeters from crashing each turn. It is Carl Jr. in the lead, Massa in second, Binks in third. As we're going into the final turns now, will Carl Jr. want this 2x multiplier, or will he wait? Will anyone retire in the last corners? It can happen. Or will they just push it all? Carl Jr. still in the lead with one more drift to go here. And then the final part. Massa on his back. Spoiler hits the wall. It will not be Massa. He drives off. Will Carl Jr. secure this one? He has the chance. And he takes it. 2 times multiplier for Carl Jr. 2:37.45. A great time. And Carl Jr. is done. Carl Jr. gets 121 points, 128 points from this step. And that's him now. So, 7 multipliers left to collect, 15 players left to compete for them. That's how this format works. And we had a player that didn't drive. Who is the Chad this time? Some players stood still on the starting line. Let's see in the checkpoint split. That is Granati. For better or worse here, did he fancy that multiplier? Mutta with a DNF as well. I think they're probably going to keep driving here though for the warm-up. But yeah, if you feel like you're faster, if you feel like you can afford it, waiting can pay off. Right now we're at the 2 times multiplier. There are 4 rounds with 2 times multiplier, 2 rounds with 3 times multiplier, and the last 2 rounds, round 7 and 8, are 4 times and 5 times your score. So let's say you're RL and you happen to win the last round and you have 80 points, you could get up to 400 points in a single match, which is pretty unheard of. If RL wins the last match, he'll get like 412, 15 points, which is incredible. But he could also just get no multiplier at all. So right now, I think RL would really happily take this 2 time if he can get it. Fighting with all the others though. Look how close it is. Only one of these players will win. Everyone else will lose this round. Who is it going to be? There is 8 players on my screen and they're all competing for the same 2-time multiplier. Uffy leading the charge just ahead of Gwen with a small gap, only 0.2 of a second, as he goes into the slalom part. Left, right, left, right. Does he have the military step to make it through? Does indeed. It's 0.3. Uffy actually with a really solid lap here. Nobody to directly contest him. Only Spam and Gwen being within distance, but it's 0.35. Uffy has the control on this round. I do not think he'll lose it in the ending. As refined as these racing lines are, this is a formality for Uffy to close it out. But the last part could get him, because the slightest off angle can cost you in the slalom part. Will Uffy hold it? No, he goes into the pole, and it is Spam that will secure the second 2-time multiplier for 50 points. Uffy choking in the last part, and you hate to see it. That would have been almost 100 points to Uffy's total, but the final part gets him, and we'll see if that was intended or not. Uffy definitely has the pace here to get another chance to win. Also, a small optimization by Spam to use the triangle there at the ending instead of going normal finish. Saves a little bit of time. Scrappy and Tween instant DNFs right now. I think at this point, if you're Scrappy and Tween, you are going for the 5-time multiplier or the 4-time. I think anything else might just not be that worth it for you with 8 and 9 points. The others, though, would happily take anything at this point, I think. Pack with a DNF there. Bren as well. They both hit the wall, and decided to wait it out. But now then, it's Gwen and Mossa up in first and second. Binks in third. About the same points for all of them. Would amount to about the same total if they should win. Well, let's see who dares to push the most. I think that was Mossa. Going into the wall. Gwen almost losing ground contact in the uphill. Oh my god, how many pixels was that between the wheel and the wall? I couldn't count them on a single hand. Gwen really risking here, but Binks with the most speed into the second lap takes the lead for now. 121.10, great opener. If he can hold that in the second, that will probably be a win for him. But Gwen, his young French competitor, is really trying everything. You can see just how close it is. He's trying everything to catch back up. But he's only losing ground because going close to the walls is not everything. You also need more speed. And Binks is going for lines that optimize his exit speed. Now with a 0.5, half a second lead against Grenadi. And Grenadi 72 points. Can you imagine? Just a double here. 144 points. Should he somehow beat Binks in the ending? He wants it here. His debut Trackmania Grand League step, his first time on the main stage. And he could just go out swinging with 140. All he needs is to overtake that one car ahead. And Binks as well in his first Trackmania Grand League step just needs to hold here in the last slalom part. And he will. Binks wins this one. 237.70. And he will double his points for 74 overall for Binks. A respectable score, for sure. So one more 2-time left on the board. One more multiplier left to collect. And I think we again have some waiters. There are some waiters back there that are just not playing yet. These are mistakes we would not see in a normal fashion. So Pack and Tween are gonna play the waiting game. Rel with a mistake. So now I'm curious when does Pack pull the trigger? When does he step on the pedal? On the pedal? Yes. When does he say like, okay, I gotta start driving now because you have 60 points. You gotta get something. You gotta multiply that by something, and you can't afford to wait too long. Perhaps the 3-time multiplier is where he'll start driving for real. But then it's like, you know, the other players are warmed up here. Are you ready to go up against Offie at this pace? Offie, who failed his first chance at closing this out, has another great lap here in the 4th round. Another chance, Papu. This is what happens if you lose contact with the ground. If you go too fast up the hill, the wheels will lift off and you will sail away into spectator mode to watch the others fight for it. 120.9 by Offie, the fastest lap we've seen all match here. Has a chance, but look at the speed from Mossa. Big lines coming through from the big player, but he hits the wall right after and it's all for nothing. And suddenly Scrappy, who we have not seen much of in the front, has a chance to overtake Offie and secure a 2-time multiplier. I'm not sure if he would want it, but it is there. Only 0.3 ahead of him right now. Offie's still so solid. Just look at how the skid marks of each player's car are overlapping. How similar the lines they're driving are. It's because it is the most optimal lines to drive and they have it figured out in each turn here. Really shows the attention to detail and the amount of finesse that comes into play here. Offie still in the lead, still keeping the gap, just like it was, but Scrappy tries in the ending here. Will he pay the price for risking? It's only 0.2. Offie with another chance at the same ending section where he failed last time, but this time he goes into the wall again. Offie with the second mistake and Scrappy's out of there with the 2-times multiplier, but this has to feel terrible for Offie. Second chance, second choke. At least now it will be worth more, but there's only 3 or 4 more chances to get out of here with a multiplier. Scrappy not with the greatest step, but he gets the multiplier, which is better than nothing, you know? It ain't much, but it's honest work. The 18-point multiplier is there, so well done from Scrappy to close it out. But let's now see the 4 final rounds here. 3-time multiplier is on the board. On the track, if you drive well and look at the car up front, it's the guy who's been waiting for this opportunity. It is Pack, who just now started driving to try to get that 3-time multiplier. Bren makes contact with the wall, and just a small mistake like this at this level is too much when winning is the only option. Is out of the fight. We see Kappa up there as well now. Worker, some new names fighting for the win. Pack with an excellent lap so far. Bit of an awkward drift there though. Will cost him the lead. Worker, Tween, and Kappa dead even into the second lap of Kappa. Crashes the wall, and it's now Tween, the other player at the bottom of the scoreboard before this map started. And if both if both Scrappy and Tween could run away with a multiplier, that would be so sour for the top players who have been playing so much better, but to get sniped in the final stage. Perhaps Tween could play Saboteur here for the top players. Just needs to win 1 round and he's out. 30 points or so, not bad. Not as bad as it could have been. But once again, and we have to hope the 3rd time being the charm here for BDS Uffy, who's been in this situation twice now. Can he make it work on his 3rd attempt? It is Grenady to try to deny it with a better ending, but it's still Uffy in the lead as we go into the final drift. Can he hold on here? Grenady is just a car length away. We've seen this exact situation before. Uffy through the pillars. Grenady with more speed, and no! Grenady will snipe it away from Uffy once again. Grenady gets out with a 3-times multiplier on 72. And that's a whopping 206 points, 16 points there for Grenady. An amazing first step in the Grand League. But you have to start feeling for Uffy now. How many times can a poor man get denied like this? He's playing so well, but it's just never quite enough to close it out. And still, he has to beat out Pack. He has to beat out Kappa, Bren, Mutta. These players crashed last time. Gwen as well. All really, really fast. If he wants to secure this, it's not getting any easier, as the top players are all still fighting for these final 3 spots now. Weaving between the pillars, they go. We see Tween with a lot of speed entering the field of view. Lower approach into the dirt will net him first temporarily. Aurel is in fight as well, and Aurel with 83 points right now, would be really hoping to get out of this. Could grant him first place in the overall standings. Hard to top that score from Grenady though. 200 points is a lot to get away with. And Papu as well could be huge to multiply the 65 he has right now. Flew off here last time. Gets a small lift but stays on the road and has time to set this up. Should be all clean for these 4 players in the lead and make that 6 even. It's a dead even race between all of them. Look at the splits. So close between these top 5 players. It is really anyone's game in the second lap, and they know it. They know that this is when the tiny differences start to matter. Papu tries to push too much and will make a mistake. Aurel falls as well. It is Uffy, Tween, and Mussa left standing in the front. And we see Uffy for the 4th time in the scenario where he can fight for a win. This time 2 players stand in this way. That's Musa and Tween to try to deny it. Can he win this one? Or will he get denied again? So consistent, so fast. At some point he has to get through, you feel like. But he still has to clutch it out now in this situation. Huge lead into the last turns. Will it be Offie for a 3 times multiplier here with the last drift to go? It almost seems inevitable that he should take this, but let's not call anything too soon. Musa has a lot of speed, and if Tween makes a mistake... Oh, they both made a mistake! Offie will finally break through after 3 failed attempts. Offie triples his points here and can be very satisfied. After a hard day at work, he did not get those points easy. But that does put him at 144 points in 2nd place overall. Well-deserved win there. Now it's starting to get tense. There is a 4 times multiplier on the scoreboard here. Aurel with 83 points, Papu 65, Pack with 63, and Bren with 59. All could really use this one and the next one. There's only 2 spots left, and there are 10 players driving, so a lot of players will walk home empty-handed from this multiplier round. Who is it going to be? Pack going extremely close to the barrier there. Now, getting the weaving. Gwen with an awkward approach. Makes it work for himself, though. Great line here on the dirt by Pack. So much speed on the exit. Wow, that was effortless. And with the speed advantage, he should roll up into 1st place. Right next to Papu and Bren. The 2 players that could use this one the most, you have to feel. And I think they are driving faster than the rounds prior. So far, no mistakes by any of them. Dangerous line here by Bren. And will he have time to set it up? Just barely. Oh my god, crazy line here from Bren. What's the split going to be? 120-103. And he will hold his lead for now. But that has shook off some of the players. Only Pack is able to keep up with this pace. The others have DNF'd or failed, and Pack fails as well. It's only Mutta now, but he's 0.4 behind. It's going to be Bren to secure 4 times his scoreline in the regular step here. If he can hold down the end. Mutta is only going to play weight here, I think. Gaining 0.4 will be impossible, but a no drift from Bren suddenly shoots him up into 1st. This is the chance Mutta was waiting for. Bren tried to get a slide there, but the car didn't go into a slide. And no one's close on the scoreboard. Mutta has been gifted the win here, basically on a silver platter. Just needs to hold this together now. Deep breaths before the ending, because despite the lead, you still have to drive extremely precisely in the ending to avoid crashing. Can Mutta hold this? Last uphill drift, down gear, it does not matter as long as you don't crash, as long as you don't blunder this. Going in between the pillars all the way onto the freewheeling and into the finish. Mutta, safe and secure, will quadruple his scoreline there for a juicy. Let's see what it will be. Plus 96. That puts him at 128, tying Carl Jr. for 3rd place. And now the final round. 9 players remaining, a 5 times multiplier left to be fought for. And this one, if you are Aurel with 83 points, could basically secure you a spot in the playoffs already. If you get up to like 400 points, you are probably going to make playoffs. That is how huge this can stack. So it's all or nothing now. Tween's out of the fight with an early mistake. I think Gwen as well in the splits will be out of the fight there with 1 second behind. That leaves us with 6 now. As we go through the first pole section, all these players will manage. Papu almost clipping the edge there of the grass. Staying on the road, we've lost another player. That is Bren who DNFs around. Bren will not be walking home. With the 5 times Musa into the wall. And another one falls. How many remain? We have 4 players who have so far stayed crashless in this round. Pack, Kappa, Papu, and Aurel to fight for this one. As we are just about done with the first lap now. The calm before the storm. Into the second lap, where you gotta go all in. Nothing to lose at that point. No further rounds to play for. And it is Pack stepping up huge here. A 120 in the final round. Great split there. As Aurel jumps wide here for the setup. Will try to overtake Papu. With more speed into the next drift. It might just be enough. Papu almost clipping the corner. They're all going extremely close to the limit here. Pack stays ahead. And looking at the gaps now. Pack will actually get reeled back in. He makes a mistake and has to release. It's Kappa jumping up into first place. Pack had to let off, or else he was going into the wall. The positions have flipped. Aurel is going wide before the poles. Will he reel it back into the line? He will indeed. But Kappa has this in his hands right now. I don't know if Pack can gain back the 0.3 deficit. He's going to give it a try. He's not going to give up without a fight. But look at the lead Kappa has right now. How much will it be? 0.27. And Pack has a little bit more speed. And he hits the wall as well. Aurel and Kappa are the final 2. It will either be Kappa to hold it, or Aurel will take advantage if he should fail it. By the looks of it, last turns to side now. Is it going to be Kappa or Aurel in the final part between the poles? Kappa hits the pole, and Aurel will 5 times his points for a massive 400-point scoreline. I do not believe it. Aurel, the leader of the match, will get the biggest multiplier. There's no way he will end the step with 415 points. Absolutely absurd scoreline here for Aurel. But that is how powerful it can be to play a great step and to win when it matters most in the final round. I think Aurel is almost in playoffs. 400 points. You can't really do better. Honestly, that is an amazing step. The most you could get is 500. And it really stacks in this format. So 415. Wow, that is crazy. That is crazy from Aurel. And I think Gaming Priv and their fans are pretty happy after that step.